Okay, I just want to do a quick video about making brushes for this week. Um, Last week I did this video where I made this tree or bush, and it's kind of a bush set. And it's one way of dealing with a brush that's kind of cool, and I think maybe some of you might have enjoyed it. And it ultimately comes out being like a brush set, and you could see how it kind of builds upon itself, and you end up with a branch, um, kind of a mid bush, and then kind of a large bush. And if you're interested in that, I'm going to make that available. But that was there last week, and I want you guys to just check that out. I'm just kind of just scrolling through that video. I'm going to try and be quick about it. I don't want you to get too caught up in this, but I do want you guys to make a brush, and I want you to turn it in. And so I thought I'd just do one quick uh, brush setup, show you a couple little things, and then you guys can build some brushes and save them out as sets and share them with your classmates. Um, some great brushes that you can build that are really pretty easy. I have this one. This is it's kind of a cool brush. It's really actually just a straight um, set of dots that I made, and it's a pretty easy thing to make if you just kind of. I'll bring my flow up. Just turn all my shape dynamics off and my transfer. Um, and basically, this was just a straight up brush. It was just a round tip brush, um, hard edged, a little bit of spacing. Um, Actually, did have some shape dynamics on it, so it's kind of changing. And just nothing with the pen, just some size jitter, just so that it got a little bit of randomness. Maybe a little scattering isn't bad, just kind of trying to do that, and then maybe also a little bit of transfer, just so that, and just on the flow jitter, just to kind of give it that kind of shape. And then let's make the brush a little bit bigger so you can see the lines. Remember, when you're making a brush, it doesn't matter how big it is because you can always scale. So this doesn't maybe look like a brush, but if you think about it, the bristles of a brush, like pushing straight down with like a flat brush, a hard bristled brush, you can kind of imagine how the bristles would sort of push into the canvas like this, and you kind of just go back and forth, and you just kind of get something like that, and it works really well. You can just make a selection of that right there. So I already had a selection. Just make a selection like that, and define it as a brush preset. So I'm going to edit, define brush preset. So just a selection, just simple like that. I'll call this tutorial line. Say OK. And now we've got a sample of this brush, and it's a little bit, you can see kind of that light area, but what you'll notice is the transparent areas will actually come out as transparent, and the dark areas come dark areas, so it's kind of cool with brushes this way. Might be a little bit too much there. Let's just deselect, and I'll just paint for a second. You can see that works pretty well, actually. Let's make that a little bit smaller. Looks good. And if we just bring our flow down, right? So get our flow down, and now we get a nice brush. It's kind of cool. You can crosshatch with it. It's a little bit thick, like, so one thing you could do, if you don't like the shape that you got, remember, select it, Command T, or edit, escape that, edit, transform, right? We could do this, not rotate, I want to do a scale. And you could just squish this thing down, right? And maybe even make it really narrow. And now it's a really much smaller shape. And then I'll make another selection and define it as a brush preset. I'll just go sample 2. Just deselect, and now you can see it's a little bit sharper in its lines, and it does that. Now remember, I have scattering on, so let's turn scattering off. And so now you can see the line is more defined. Now this actually has, in shape dynamics, if you notice really closely, I'm going to zoom in here. See, I have the angle is actually set to direction, so the brush is actually pointed in the direction of or the angle is set to the direction that I'm pulling the brush or the mouse. So remember that we have the ability to rotate our brush. Remember this? So notice what happens if I rotate. So if I put this straight up, now when I brush it goes this direction. This is pretty awesome for doing, some people like to do kind of cross hatching, or some of you are doing, I noticed some of you are doing mountains. This is, oops, I just changed my brush. And so, it could be a kind of a cool way to make a sample brush too. Cool way to make some lines. You can see it's kind of cool the way it responds, right? It's just deleted that layer. When it's straight like that, it kind of makes a nice line this way. So you can do that, or you can go into the rotate and get some better looks out of it. So that's just a real simple brush, just kind of making kind of a bristle brush or dots. And I found those are actually really pretty useful, those kinds of brushes. Here's another one that if you recall, I kind of got into. I call it a coral brush. So I'll make one of those real quickly. Let's just go to a good hard round brush. Make it kind of big. Just going to click in the center. Let's bring my flow all the way up. Let's see if I can do this quickly without being too slow. I'm just going to grab that white color and just make my edge a little bit soft and just click in the center. Just kind of making a white and a black. So that was just a black circle, paintbrush, hard edge, white, circle, paintbrush, soft edge, just on top of each other. And then what I want to point out is this tool, which we didn't really talk about, but it's called the smudge tool. And it might be under the blur or the sharpen tool, but notice the smudge tool. It's a pretty great tool. You can see it's actually set to my original brush that I just used. Let's go back to a hard brush. So just kind of just a hard brush, or even a soft brush will work. Make this a little bit smaller. And basically what I did is I just kind of went like this. I just kind of grabbed the edges, and you can see it kind of blurs or smudges the just got out of the tool. Kind of smudges the colors into itself like that. I kind of went in like that, but I also increased this strength. So play around with the strength and see what you get. So I'll come way out. I made a pretty large strength, like get this around 90s. It's probably let's zoom out because I can't quite see the edge of the painting. I want to make sure I'm not going off. That looks good. I'll just do a couple. I'm not gonna. So I kind of just did this. It's pretty neat the way this works. You see, it kind of gets really gets pretty organic pretty quick. Something like that one. Let's bring the opacity or the strength down a little bit. We'll just kind of do these. It's a bit too much. Stay in the 80s somewhere. There we go. Nice one. It's kind of like that. If you kind of double up, you can kind of grab them twice. Kind of get them to flare a little more. I did something like this where I kind of went back into it too. When you're making a brush, what you'll notice is that white will actually become transparent, and black will actually show color. So when I cut through these, the transparencies will show as transparent, but so will the white. So when I make a brush of this, you'll see that. So that looks pretty cool. I'm going to stop there. I don't want to get too into it. So basically, I can actually select the whole thing, or I can just do a big giant marquee selection over the entire image, right? So just to make sure I catch all the little wisps there. Remember, scale doesn't matter because we can use a brush to change it, right? So I'm going to do File. I'm going to do, Edit. Define Brush Preset. I was calling this Coral, so I'll just call it Coral Tutorial or something. Say OK. And then now I've got this big brush. So let me select. Let me go back into it's called Tutorial. Let's go in Brush. Let's make a new layer so we can see. I'll hide that one. Oh, brush is huge, that's why. Let's turn that down a little bit. And when I paint out, you can see I got white. Let's go back to black. And I got this brush. It doesn't look super great. Let's just do a couple changes to the settings. So let's space that out. It looks really very similar to that other. I kind of got into it earlier. Maybe do like some shape dynamics so that we get a little bit of a size jitter there. We can do a little angle jitter. We can turn that direction off. I don't think it matters. Do a little transfer so that we get a good flow jitter on there. Looking better. And then maybe just a little scattering just to kind of spread it out. And remember, this was kind of cool because it was I was thinking of it as it kind of reminded me of coral, right? Pretty cool. And so what you'll notice is that it's actually transparent. So let me get this little yin yang symbol here, and you can see how the it works pretty nice on that. I can just put the white here, some whites on that, right? And it kind of works out pretty nice. Almost looks like tie-dye or craters or something like that. It's a pretty cool brush. And that's just making brushes, you know, and remember the saving the sets out is pretty straightforward. Just go to my brushes. I'm going to go to, remember there's another video for this, but the preset manager, remember at the bottom we have that. There's my coral. Here's what the heck, I'll make them, I'll select them all. Select everything. This is all I made. That's the tree included. I'm going to save the set. Remember, it's going to my brushes set, so I'm going to call this big brush set. Let's call that KL's big brush set, right? And then I'll just save that. So now we can actually even delete all these. I'll delete all of them. I'll say OK. And then I'll load a set. Kale's big brush set. And there they are, Kale's big brush set. And there they all are again. And I can grab them and use them whenever I want. Now remember, it kind of, it'll remember it kind of keeps a track of your last brushes you've used. So they kind of just sit in the queue there. But cool brush. Anyway, so that's what I'm kind of hoping that you do. And then you'll take this. I shouldn't have done it that way, but let's hide Photoshop. And then you guys are gonna take that from your brushes, and you're gonna upload this to Canvas, and then we can all share them, and that's kind of the whole idea. So I'm gonna end it right there.